Whoa, what the heck is going on, people? Caught
Russ.
me jumping around over here. What's going on, Ernest?
Not
Whoa, what
much,
the heck is
man.
going on, people? Oh, snap. Look at this. Look at this. You gotta get ready. You got too much stuff going on over here. Too much stuff. My bad. Ernest,
You good?
too
What's
many
going
phones
on,
over here.
everybody?
Man, welcome to our episode for Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's not Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Man, it's kind of crazy. Tuesday, May 25th.
Yeah,
We're gonna be talking about K-Sam, Kwame, not the Kilpatrick one. So we gotta make sure everything is in order around this piece. I'm Darvell, and I'm here outside of Detroit. We're gonna talk about this thing today. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. I want to turn it over to my man's Ernest Russell.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome. This is Ernest. I'm out here in Lansing. Definitely, as I always say, here to have a good dialogue with you, good discussion.
So, well, we got to do that housekeeping, right, sir?
Yeah, for
Housekeeping
sure.
is always important. So, big thing up, first of all, if you're watching us on Facebook or anywhere outside of YouTube, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, The Freedman Collective. Go search it now, subscribe, like the live video right now, because that's going to be the place to find all the other clips, all the past episodes. We're here in the Metro Detroit area in Michigan representing the movement. And so this is how we come to you on a bi-weekly basis. If you're on Facebook, again, share this as well. Even on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe. We have a Facebook page we started. It's not big. People don't really know about it like that, but it's there. But the biggest thing is that we might not always be live on like my page or on the FAM, Freedman Agenda League of Michigan page. We may not be live on there, but we'll always be live on YouTube. Ain't that right, Ernest?
Yeah, it'll be live on YouTube for sure. Every other Tuesday.
So we're gonna get it in. And another thing before we get into today's discussion topics, we do call in. We do allow live call-ins on this show. So big thing is that the number is going to show up on the screen in a little bit after we get through the local beat. And if you want to call in and harass us about what you heard on the local beat, drop your 2 cents. Or if you want to actually get into the throes of the discussion regarding the main discussion topic today, which is going to be Kevin Samuels and Kwame Brown, we're gonna have time for you to call in and let your 2 cents be heard. And then this will end up all over the internet. So beware, you might be on the internet today. So we gotta get into that local beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see what's going on in the local beat, y'all. Boom. We got a topic for everybody's digestion today. Okay, it's this, as we always do, starting off with the Detroit information before we get into national discussion. We got to talk about your boy, Mike Duggan. We got to talk about the mayor of Detroit, the guy who makes it all happen, right? It looks like there's been a lot of discussion I've seen on Facebook. A lot of discussion about the money that Detroit is setting up to receive. As you see on the screen here, this article released by the Free Press just today. This morning, Mike Duggan will focus on 5 areas across Detroit to invest $400 million of the COVID-19 pandemic-related federal funding. As we know, Detroit is historically, specifically since becoming majority Black, a city always, clamoring or clawing to get money so that they can do good things, so we can do good things for the citizens. It's not always used appropriately, as we know, unfortunately. So a lot of people are very interested in how this money is going to be used. But as the article from the Detroit Free Press goes on to say, Detroit expects to receive $826 million in federal funding to address various challenges throughout the city. And Duggan is inviting the public, that's you, that's y'all, to provide feedback on areas needing investments. The first $413 million will be available by early June, while the second half will come next year. Deputy Mayor Conrad said, the key areas that Duggan is eyeing is going to be fighting intergenerational poverty. That's the first one I seen, Ernest. And I was just like, I was blown away by it.
I was just scrolling through and I looked at that. I'm like,
That's a big undertaking for a city.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that that's part of the current thought process that's running through a lot of major cities about dealing with reparations or the Black?
Yeah, like that's in essence, that's what it kind of sounds like, right? We even seeing a lot of things from Netflix even putting things out about like the racial wealth gap, etc. So it's like I don't know. I think a lot of cities are starting to keep in line with what we see going on across the country with AB 3121. I think they officially started the task force. So a lot of good things I'm hearing on the grounds from out of that. So
is that the task force in California or in Chicago?
Yeah, in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say then in Chicago, we got that violence declared as a health crisis. So, we'll see if some type of discussions or even further policies come out of that. But yeah,
It's interesting talking about, violence as a health crisis. I mean, I don't know where we are in the ranks right now between Chicago and Detroit. I don't know which one is in the lead. You got any, as far as violence and crime numbers right now?
Yeah, I always tell everybody I know it go up in any city, just the news ain't reporting it like that.
No, I mean, it's whatever's hot. Like I just said at the barbershop today, what bleeds is what leads, right? That's what they say about the news. And so it was coronavirus. It was the Black Spring. I won't even call it the Black Spring that we had last summer. Yeah. But, the uprisings, however Trump wanted to characterize it and the news wanted to run with it. But anyway, back on this Duggan stuff here, key areas include fighting intergenerational poverty, investing in neighborhoods, investing in parks, improving recreation and cultural assets, enhancing public safety, closing the gap, and supporting small businesses. Ain't that something? Mm-hmm. But they're only putting the first 400 million of this into Detroit. It will focus on 5 areas across Detroit to invest 400 million of the pandemic-related funds, but they're expecting to receive over 826 million.
Yeah, I'm thinking that other 400 million. I don't know if it's going to facilitate things related to the virus or whatever, or the pandemic, but yeah.
Right. So, you know what? That's a really key point. We're going to have to see if they had some things that they kind of loaned out, or if they had to go out and get loans that they have to pay back. Maybe they're getting 826, but only like the 413 is actually going to be usable. But let's read the rest of this real quick. If you haven't seen the article, y'all, go to the Detroit Free Press website. You can see the actual piece. But, quoting Malliot, he says, what we really do see is that the goal of fighting intergenerational poverty is the major framework within which all of these programs are designed to operate. Listen, we're talking about the city of Detroit, and you talk about intergenerational poverty. You're just talking about the racial wealth gap. And you say intergenerational poverty like somebody before somebody had some money. Like you go back 2 generations, they had. No, the poverty line is passed down just like the traumas of the Black existence in this country.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at least we know it being Detroit, it'll disproportionately affect Blacks if they're talking about intergenerational poverty, right?
Oh, yeah. That's all we're talking about. You're not talking about the white people who just moved here in the past 10, 12 years. You might be talking about the white people who lived here for more than 20 or 30 years if they lived in the city proper, But this next paragraph goes on to say that one of the programs being cited for expansion is Detroit at Work, which I've heard of that program. It connects candidates to job and training opportunities ranging from construction and skilled trades to information technology, healthcare, transportation, and manufacturing. So again, we're trying to take that money, make systems more robust that can reach further, get more people connected to jobs, which ideally will be sustained, right? And they quote on and say, then there's a possibility for those persons to help with neighborhood investment efforts that may or may not include some home repair program. If we were to do some major parks and recreation projects, Detroit at Work may be able to connect some people to participate in those projects. It's interesting they say this because, there was recently this program that went on in Southwest Detroit where they were giving people, I believe it was Southwest, where they're giving people money, and Stedman would have to talk to it. He would know. They're giving people money to fix up their homes with the qualifications and the different things you had to check the boxes off because it had to do with the bridge, the new bridge. And the things you had to dance around to get the money and what you could do with it and stuff, it was kind of precarious. And so now they're talking about, again, neighborhood investment efforts for home repair. This sounds like, what is that? What's the city that done the program where it's the housing program, but they call it Reparations?
Evanston, yeah. Basically, only I think it was like 400,000 out of 10 million going to 25 black families of up to $25,000 in down payments for home or repairs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hopefully we're not playing that game, but at least this idea of closing the digital divide, a challenge that the city officials want to address, especially within DPSCD. The Detroit Public Schools are desperate to educate our children, but if you don't have the kind of internet support that allows you to manage an online learning curriculum, the chances go down significantly. And that's true. I know people who are in this space, this academic space for DPSCD and related school districts that are similarly tasked and burdened to, carry out curriculum with inadequate funding. And this is just like a Mission Impossible. And it's funny because when you think about Mission Impossible, and you can tell me what it's like in Lansing and in Chicago, but when you think about Mission Impossible when it comes to schooling, it's like you're trying to get each graduation year forward by 1 year. It's like every year is a struggle to get those students through the year they're in. And then you might get one class out the door. Then you got to repeat again and get another class out the door. It's this struggle where every year you're trying to make up for a bunch of deficiencies and lack of different resources to close a gap enough that students are going to make the cut to graduate or to be attrition or matriculated to the next grade. And it's more about survival than it is thriving in a thriving school system that has a rich and well-rounded curriculum and opportunities for students. Have you heard of that in other cities?
I would say it's a similar setup in Chicago. Like they having that issue with trying to get the students out. And I could say that just from like going to a suburban school for a number of years and then graduated from a city school, easily seeing all the problems and issues they got. But it's more so like Malcolm X said, like, if you, he said, we living in a vicious cycle in the sense that if you live in a poor neighborhood, then you must be a poor person. And if you're a poor person, then when you have children, those children will go to a poor school, which will be taught by poor teachers, which will then give those children a poor education, which will allow them to get a poor paying job, which then will keep them in poverty so that they could be a poor person living in a poor neighborhood, having kids. And that's the intergenerational poverty that I think this article is alluding to. And the question is, can you really tackle that, without fixing the financial conditions of some of these folks, right?
The fundamental financial conditions. You are 110% right, because we are eluding ourselves and wasting money trying to put bandages in place that you have to go and find money to fix in 3 years or 2 years. That's one interesting thing about grants. When we talk about the nonprofit arena is organizations go out and they get these grants that are only good for a couple years, but these organizations are like providing like real direct to people services. And it's like the grants you have to always renew and kind of go back and prove that you've been effective, which is a good checks and balances system. But when you're filling the gap as a NGO of something the government should do or the government should have never allowed to get this bad, you end up trying to get money from the public sector to cover something the government is wholly responsible for. And the fact is, people want to believe that the government isn't responsible. I'm not trying to advocate, and I don't think we're advocating big government for the sake of big government, but the principal ideas of everything from human rights through legislative morality that has driven our legal system to the point of where it is today. It in whole part is assuming and presenting itself as being able to take care of these major infrastructural deficiencies, should it choose to take care of it. In most cases, they just go around the Black community and focus on making sure they upkeep the white community, and they give us pebbles. And so what happens is you have NGOs out the hilt from wall to wall, fully carpeted, that are trying to make up these gaps. For instance, one in Detroit, there's a foundation called Detroit Public Schools Foundation. It's a group of people who are putting together money on an annual basis to give to teachers to buy school supplies and things like this. Yeah. It's like a whole different organization just to make up money from the public sector, from private individuals, to fundraise and use that to fund teachers so they can put things in their classroom that they need. That is crazy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the government's got to be involved in that, because you're setting up a situation for failure, and everybody know when it comes to crime, it is a good tie to education and even being in poverty. So.
Right. So to wrap this one up, so just as this article says, Duggan will host 25 community meetings seeking resident feedback on where funding should be distributed. The American Rescue Plan Act funds will be available during 2022, 23, and 24 fiscal years and must be spent by December 2024, according to a news release. Residents can tune into a Zoom meeting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. That would be next Tuesday. So that would be, I'm thinking on June 1st at 7 p.m., unless they're talking about today, to hear Duggan's ideas and provide feedback. Attendees will also be able to vote on where the funds should be prioritized. Y'all need to get in on that. You know, that's a big deal. You don't see that type of thing rolling out like that. Let me see. Let's click on this link, our ARPA meeting. And I'm not launching Zoom. Go away. Oh, wow.
No, definitely, like citizens of Detroit, we got to urge you guys to get out there and, definitely try to attend these meetings, get more involved, because these could be policies that ultimately help shape a better future, right?
Agreed. Yeah, okay, so someone on Facebook saying this is actually today, but the Zoom isn't working.
Yeah.
What the heck? What? Why? What? Why is they stuff broke? That's not allowed. That's not real. Okay, so but they are streaming on the City of Detroit Facebook page. So guys, if you see this now or you come back later and watch our video, you can pop over to the City of Detroit Facebook page and you can find hopefully some notes or the video of that meeting where they're talking about how to allocate this fund. But you can't call into a dang City of Detroit Facebook stream, not like a Zoom. So yeah, interesting. But that's what's going on in Detroit, yo. That's the local beat, man. You got anything to add to that, Ernest, before we pop over to our main topic, man? Because people need to in the know.
Yeah, I think see, Detroit in a unique situation is similar to like we could say like a city in the South, right? They got a high Black population, so ultimately these policies should benefit residents of the city. And that's just going to show you, right? Like I think America, when it takes a step back and realize that it can invest in its American citizens to get results that it seeks to achieve from other groups of people, then we'll actually start to see progress and less of this decline for the average American. So I did want to put that out there.
Yeah, and
I think the plan was called like American Rescue Plan, right? You need 1,000 more of those.
So you need 1,000 of them, and they all need to be in the city. And listen, we got to do two things though before we pivot into this topic, yo. First thing, we got to send a shout out to our co-hosts who are not with us tonight, right? Sure. What's going on with them right now? Where they at, man?
We got Gerard out in Nairobi, Kenya, so he'll be back soon. And then we got Stedman. I think he's just added another member to the clan, to his family. Man, he gave birth to. His wife just gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. So
yes.
Good shout outs to Stedman.
Yes, shout out to Stead, man. He's growing his clan. That man gonna have a whole fleet. They're gonna be in the future. Oh man, that's really good to see and hear. And hoping Gerard's safe and doing well. I know he's working hard down there, and he'll be back next month, back here with us in the D. So we're gonna have to go on ahead and make this pivot, y'all. That was some good information. Make sure if you're in the city of Detroit, spread the word about that money. Make sure people know that stuff is going to be out there for folks, right? We got to make sure that money is spent. I've been following on Facebook. I've been following some people on Facebook recently who I know are really in the thick of this, trying to understand and get people educated about what's going on, and making sure they don't miss out. One of the people that I've seen really who's been active, and she's actually running a campaign, I think for city council now. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but Nicole Small has been someone I follow she has a show actually also on Facebook that she does streaming. I think it might go to YouTube as well. And they do a lot of the real in-depth discussion about what's going on. And you know what? Actually, I scrolled across her page. And the Detroit People's Platform is also trying to, Detroit People's Platform, shout out to them. They are big on transparency and holding the city government accountable. From what I've seen, I can't speak in depth about them, but definitely what I've seen is that they have they had an event that they threw up regarding, you know, these $880 million in federal funds coming to the city. So make sure y'all understand that money is coming, and you make sure it's allocated where it should be. We've already talked on this show before with Gerard and Stedman about how funds have been misallocated in the city of Detroit. Funds come in the door, y'all don't even know they came, and they go out the door somewhere to someone who don't look like you. And so we need to be careful about that, you know, advocating for the city. I want Detroit to be as infamously positively regarded across this nation by Black people as Atlanta is. I feel like Detroit is the Mecca, the Black Mecca, although they look at Atlanta as a cultural spot. Now, one other thing I wanted to show people before we bounce into this topic and Ernest takes the wheel is we talk about reparations, right, Ernest? You mentioned that, you know, what we see in terms of closing these gaps, these monetary gaps, these wealth gaps, these intergenerational gaps that they spoke about in that article about the money coming into Detroit. What we see is that this looks like a lot of the efforts we're seeing on local level, right, in different cities across the country to try to fix the issues within the Black community, because they're starting to see a lot of these issues come from poverty, right? And the real correction of poverty isn't just giving a bunch of people jobs and dealing with income disparities. What happens is you might deal with the low level issues that cause immediate dysfunction, but you're going to have still higher levels of dysfunction that still remain in the community. Because what we say is that if someone can afford to pay for it, the price will still remain high. So when we talk about the racial wealth gap in America, with the white line being like this, right, the gap looks like a crocodile, right, in the water.
Yeah, for sure. I was just looking at it today. It definitely do. And that's the result of years of policies meant to, you know, advantage one group and disadvantage the other. So I think, yeah, you can see the gaps in the charts, and
it's ugly.
Yeah, I think you know we used to a lot of this unfair policies and things like that put us in these positions. I think when we're talking about fighting poverty in America, America's really talking about fixing situations that they're allowed to foster. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Us. And what's interesting is, and we'll talk about, I'm going to come back to it at the end of the show. There was a report released a couple weeks ago about the income and wealth state of the city of Detroit and their residents, and there's a whole bunch of discussion about it. But what I was getting at as our second point before we pivot is, what is reparations truly, right? Mm-hmm. I think too many people have confusing ideas or conflicting ideas, or they've not been properly told what reparations really is. So we want to just make sure we're going to show this that's on the screen now, which is just a one-pager that explains high level. This is very high level. It's not meant to be all-inclusive or explicitly accurate to the degree of something you're going to take to the bank and see in legislation. But the idea that we want to push here, right, is how well-rounded reparations is. Reparations is not just handing out checks. Reparations is not just handing out checks. Reparations is a comprehensive set of programs which fundamentally address the socioeconomic. And so, let me pause this. I'm going to say, when we're talking about reparations on this program and anywhere within the anywhere within the movement for Black lives in general, reparations are speaking specifically to the Black community. And then when we talk about the qualifications of reparations, they are specifically for those who are descendants of the freedmen of this country, the formerly enslaved in this country. Because when we start talking about how we determine why reparations are due, you automatically end up dragging that line, that chain link that takes you back to the root cause, back to the first our ancestors who were brought here as slaves. And everything that we see today has been a trickle down effect of them being brought here, being classified as we were, and still being classified as we are, right? So when we talk about reparations, what we're saying is that it's a comprehensive set of programs which fundamentally address the socioeconomic disparities at the root of most problems plaguing the Black community today. These disparities include wealth, psychological traumas, environmental deficiencies, education, and anti-Black discrimination. So when you understand that you're trying to shoot at the very root to what degree you can in America in 2021, and you have to deal with so many different facets, not just, money, but also anti-Black discrimination and miseducation and environment issues. When you realize that, you start to see that. And when you go to the United Nations and you look at good programs that have been executed in the past by the United States government and other governments, you realize that reparations has a multitude of different elements in it. It's a business contract guarantee for the black businesses that can do the civil work to do a lot of these repairs in the city. It's the racial class protection to ensure that we're not victimized further in regards to, just like we've seen the anti-Asian hate crime bill that just came out. That is the same thing that we need, that we have never gotten. It's silly, isn't it? Yep. It's stupid. But racial class protection, lineage therapy, which deals with those traumas, cash restitution. So this is half of this money thing, this wealth thing that we're talking about. The restitution is not only just punitive damages, but it's also the monies that are due for directly stolen things that were taken from us and caused the psychological damage. Then there's cash compensation, which is really the true wealth restoration. So when you think about Black Wall Street, when you think about Black Bottom, when you think about all these different cities, these black meccas that existed across the country, when you burn down or destroy or take away those places, you preclude us from building wealth. And then you preclude us not only from having more wealth, but you do that by not only destroying our principal, but you preclude us from actually making gains or increasing our wealth through use of our principal. So there's a exponential growth in the losses over time, and cash compensation comes in to bring that lost potential earnings back to our community. The national apology, where we reconcile and admit what's been done. The mandatory historical education, where we fix all the miswritten textbooks and start to force the education, just like they do in Germany, just like they do in South Africa, about what that nation actually did. And we don't play any games about how accurate it is. It must be dead accurate. And then last but not least, federally mandated training. The training that really pushes home the point that this stuff is not acceptable and helps train people who are especially new to certain areas and sensitivities, not only to racial and ethnic understanding, but lineage understanding. But anyway, keep that in mind, people. I'm going to take this down. Ernest, what are we about to talk about next?
Man, I think one key word I seen up on the screen outside of reparations was psychological trauma. And so, I know later on in this show today, we'll talk about Ronald Green and the situation out there in Louisiana. I want to say that if we would have got the footage around the same time with the George Floyd, I think that would have added significant fire. So it just shows you how, I think America's media is aware of the message they push and when they push it, and, how far they know not to taunt certain people. But at the same time, what we have is this system going on here where, for the last few hundred years, maybe, the media has been persistently targeting and attacking a specific group of people. It's men and it's women. And, when it comes to its men, I would say it has done a great job attacking and destroying the image of what it means to be a Black American man in this country. And you can see that from the military's lack of respect for us, police lack of respect for us. You got politicians lack of respect for us, and as well as many other people who are just reaching this country's mighty shores. But one thing I did want to point out before we get into this, because of course we're going to discuss Kwame Brown, folks, as you see in the title. I find this situation really unique because what we have is somebody who for years and years has been criticized by the media, and what we have seen is that the media, in its many ways, how apathetic it is to Black life, could have many far-reaching consequences on someone's life. And so with the Kwame Brown situation, we got kind of like a sports situation where it's not normal media. It kind of seeped out into normal media, but it stemmed from sports media. And if you understand sports media, it's all about metrics. It's all about performance. How high can you jump? How fast can you run? And if you can't do it good, eventually, these media narratives will categorize you as a bum, as trash, and etc. And what happens is, just like any other media station, when you push that message to somebody, human beings who take in that message without any context and understanding can treat that person like trash, can ruin that person.
Wow.
Fans in the streets, maybe you look at this person, you never knew him, you see him as trash because of the message you heard for 20 years, specifically as it relates to sports, right? Whereas you might see a Michael Jordan and LeBron James and think so much greatness because what has the media done to their image? So I mean, with that being said, I want everybody to recognize the power of the media when it comes to characterizing Black men and Black women. And as we get into sports, just like in normal media, they use a lot of black sports pundits or media commentators to bash and destroy the image of our own black sports.
Because they can't be doing wrong to their own
they know
people, right?
a white person would look so wrong saying the wrong things about a black person not being able to perform this and that, because the question then becomes like, you can't even do what this person has done. So in the case of Kwame Brown, just to give you guys some background, he was #1 pick from Washington, D.C. He was chosen by Michael Jordan and other scouts. So despite what everyone has said about him, somebody had to see something special in him to select him to the league. He made it to the league when he was 18 years old. This was at a time where black high school graduates could still join the NBA and from out of the high school classroom to making millions of dollars, escaping poverty, etc. So with Kwame Brown, there's a lot of like background stories of how he had to deal with a lot of personalities, etc. But long story short, his career did not pan out well, as most famous or popular athletes' careers do. And so throughout his career, though, like many players who don't achieve, I guess because he was #1 pick and he was picked by Michael Jordan, people had a higher expectation. But what happens is these teams, I don't even know if it's the teams, if they have any like stake in the game, but these media companies that are involved in sports, they say they're doing comparative analysis of their metrics, the performance, how many rebounds you get, how many shots, 3-pointers you make, how many layups, and et cetera. How efficient are you at
They
this
were trying
game?
to be objective.
So they're saying that they're trying to be objective, but a lot of people make the argument to state that if you're good enough to make it in the sport, which is already a lottery system, then you are worthy to play the game. You just might not be as great as others. So Stephen A. Jackson is one of the main co-conspirators in this situation, where for 20 years he has bashed this black man, and not just him, but other black men. And from Kwame Brown's perspective, he said that very same bashing was the things that stopped him from getting an $80 million deal over 4 years versus him getting versus him getting a $7 million deal over 1 year.
So this guy, who is he? He's a ESPN reporter.
Who?
The Stephen A. Brown.
Smith. Yeah, Stephen A. Smith is he's a sports pundit. He got famous because he was commentating on black sports athletes, specifically like Allen Iverson out in Philadelphia. And then he got more fame when he started doing this like trickery of bashing Kwame and how trash he is and other players who he feel is trash, despite the fact that he has never played the game. You know what I'm saying? Despite the fact that you know what I'm saying, like he has never played any sports or etc. But at the same time, I guess he has a professional opinion on this thing. And so with all of that being said, Stephen A. Smith set up a situation where he bashed this person, and then other media news stations picked up upon what Stephen A. Smith was doing, and they created this culture where they would continuously bash him. This man was good enough to stay in the NBA for 10 years. Despite all of the bashing, teams still picked him up and hired him and to play a role or to be on the team because he had enough skills to stay in the league for 10 to 12 years. He might have just not scored what LeBron did, but it doesn't mean he wasn't skilled. Doesn't mean he's trash. It doesn't mean none of that. But because they did that, like I said, a lot of fans and a lot of people's perception of him is that he's a bum or he's a scrub. You know what I'm saying? Like how you look at somebody who's shitty in something, you might just look at him like that and other things or other aspects. And so, with Kwame Brown, what happened was there's a show called All the Smoke. And on that show, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, these are other basketball players, they made jokes about Kwame Brown, kind of following the tradition of Stephen A. Smith and many of the other sports commentators, despite this man being silent for 20 years, retired from the game since I think 2013 or 2014. But it just show you that they still continuously disrespected him while he's not even in the league. But, saying things like I said, but just him because he's a black man. They didn't talk about the #1 white picks who were shitty and never really made it far. They don't continuously drag these people's names in the mud to say, oh, was he that great? He was #1. He didn't do nothing. He didn't deliver. He was a bum. He was a scrub.
Right.
Just saying, you know, so they never do that with the white people, but for some reason it's easy to do it with a black male musician, a black male artist, anybody who no longer has that skill that they used to have. It's easily to discard them as trash or garbage.
Is
You
it cancel
know,
culture? It's not cancel culture. That's
I
different.
mean, this was the beginning of cancel culture, right? Because this was what allowed cancel culture to become that much more powerful, right? Like the fact that you just cut somebody off completely and it would be done, so to say. So it's not the same though.
So to be clear, we have a man who went straight from high school into the NBA.
Yep.
He was good enough to do that. Mm-hmm. He stayed in the NBA for how many years? 10 years?
Made 10 years, made over $60 million from his deals, etc.
So high school to NBA,
bought his mama a house at 18. Yeah, bought his mama a house at 18.
Done the right thing. Yeah. And then you got this dude on the screen from ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, a black man who just starts taking shots at this guy in the middle of his career.
While he was 18. So
when he first started.
Yeah, he was still a teen. So you know what I'm saying? He was like, this is showing you how vicious the media could be to even our younger, like how they treat young black artists the same way how they treat young black sports professionals, right?
It's like talking about they treating us like cattle, like meat, like we're racehorses, and we can just be thrown away. We have no feelings. We have no meat or flesh in this game that we chose to put our life. Because people who play basketball at this level and who play who do this music at this level, they're putting a lot of sweat and equity into what they're doing. A lot
of investment. This is their lifelong dream. So when you tear down these people, what are you subjecting them to outside of poverty if they don't have the ability to stay on? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you literally sacrificing their livelihood just so that you can get your own gain. That's what these media personalities have been doing.
Wow.
And so when you think about this, like even with the sports thing, right? Like it's a specific tie to slavery. Like these white owners and white scouts, they got black ones and stuff, but no black coaches like that in the numbers. These people are looking at the talent and saying, he's fast enough to do this. He's strong enough to do this. And I'll pay this amount of money for him to join my team. And it's stacked in tiers to say the shittiest of you is just not worth this amount of money, but you're worth this amount of money because you can still do these amount of things.
That's like cattle.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. Even when you look at the NFL combine, the draft, NBA draft, how high they can jump. Wow, LeBron got a 40-inch vert. That means he's going to be, you know what I'm saying? He has this amount of resistance and etc. So, but he's like almost the number one specimen in their eyes, and any team would pay any amount of money because no matter how many millions LeBron get, these teams get billions. So that's the same system. You know what I'm saying? People don't see it, but long story short, where the media comes into this is that they get to determine who's valuable and who's not by the narrative that they spin on this thing. And so they could ultimately affect these people's lives. But with all the smoke, they made jokes about Kwame Brown. And from all the smoke, you got the Breakfast Club, which isn't even a sports commentating media company. Mm-hmm. They kind of latched on to the joke and was like, oh, yeah, he's trash. But what Charlamagne did, Charlamagne the guy, he took it a step further by giving Kwame Brown's personal family story, history that he didn't even know about his own father or brother, the facts that they were killers or this and that. He was like, yeah, because they're from the same town in South Carolina, Charleston. Okay. So with that being said, Charlamagne's like, I know some of his family members, and let me tell y'all this: his father used to be big time drug dealer, but he killed somebody, and then he was like, his brother killed somebody. He was like, so y'all don't mess with Kwame because he Kwame. So it's like, what are you alluding? Like that he's crazy and violent, that because he at the end of his ropes or end of his career, he might come and kill y'all now, even if he is still trashy and couldn't do anything in basketball like the high achiever ones, right? Wow. So
another black man, Charlamagne the God,
another black man, yeah, and so. What you had was Kwame Brown coming out of the woodworks, like many of these people who get attacked by the media, right? Like if they could only respond and get as much hype from the people as what they generate when they target and attacking these people, we would see a different thing. But basically, Kwame came out. He laid out the facts. He basically exposed this system of how you got these black people attacking other black people. Then at the same time, you got black people like exploiting other Black people's pain and trauma, etc., without any regard, going on to the next person to do it, and they getting paid to do it because it's their job. And so Charlamagne, the people who set up the content of that show that day, they chose that segment as what you could possibly cover or talk about today, as in what's hot.
Do you think so? Who owns this? Is a good one. Let's take this tree. Let's take a small branch, y'all. We're gonna come back to this.
Yeah.
We talked about ESPN, which we know is not Black owned, and it's not. If it's not, listen. If it's not Black owned,
it's owned by Disney. ESPN.
If it's not Black owned, then I don't care how many Black people you got down the line, you can't trust them. So when that's said and done, who owns the Breakfast Club?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I heard something about Revolt.
Yeah, I don't think P. Diddy owns 22 million network stations across the countries. Yeah. You know, because that's like they were saying P. Diddy owns Revolt, but it could be that same situation like we covered with Magic Johnson owning a portion of the Dodgers and Jay-Z owning a portion of you get what I'm saying, Brooklyn Nets, etc. Right? Those setups.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's just like it's reading about Breakfast Club is an American syndicated radio show based in New York, hosted by DJ Envy, Angela Yee, and Charlamagne the God. It currently airs on over 90 radio markets around the country and is also televised by Revolt every morning. Common topics of discussion on the show are celebrity gossip, particularly in hip hop industry, progressive politics, and sexual and dating issues. And it shows, I guess it's actually, I guess the show is technically owned by Power 105.1, and it's simulcast through Premier Networks on radio and through TV on Revolt. I think that's kind of basically, you know, who owns, like, and we don't even need to figure out who owns the station, do we?
No.
We should. But go ahead. So
odds are it is, right? Because whoever owns that station is getting a lot of wealth. So we know it's not anybody Black.
Sound like the NBA.
We would have heard their name already, right? We'd have heard their name already if it was a Black person. They would have told us. They would have said, he got this amount of money and he owns the Breakfast Club.
iHeartRadio.
Okay.
iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
so this is going back to the monopoly game of Bill Clinton's politics, where he allowed these radio stations to monopolize the airwaves. So yeah. Some white family.
So okay, so this is what happened, right? We went from a guy doing all these great things, a Black man on ESPN targeting him, then a Black YouTube show. So
yes, we get Black men from ESPN targeting them, to then Charlamagne, who has this hip hop content targeting them. So he's 20 years retired at this point, but he's tired of people trashing and shitting on his name.
What about all the smoke though?
Yeah, so all the smoke, they was just feeding into the Stephen A narrative because it's
that's a Black YouTube show.
Yeah, no, they owned by Showtime, but they got one Black host, which was George Floyd's cousin, Steven Jackson, and they got Matt Bourne. So two former basketball players with a personality who willing to attack or even promote certain aspects about the Black NBA game. You know, Black men in the NBA game, right? That's
okay.
Expertise is.
So now where are we? Where are we now?
So now where we're at is that due to the Breakfast Club attack, he only came out because his family, and it was a personal attack, right? But at the same time, he could make the argument against Stephen A, against all the smoke, to say, y'all been personally attacking me since I was personally a little kid coming into the game from high school, because I'm just learning this game, but you got people tearing me down, influencing the coach's opinion on my performance because he watches your show. So then he could talk to me like that in practice. And other players could think that that's true too, despite me getting picked and having this talent recognized by these, you know, so-called other scouts and Michael Jordan too, right? He was saying, so I did something right at one point, but just because I ain't panning out how they wanted me to, they're gonna paint me as all of these things and etc. But because he is from the South and he does have an accent and he talks ghetto, like they like to classify it, they could easily paint him as violent or dangerous, etc., like they have always, like how they always do us in the media. And so with the Breakfast Club doing that, he came out and he responded to Charlamagne, Angela Yee, and Envy, and he just exposed all of their hypocrisy in this thing. So it's like you can expose my personal life, but how about I do the same thing to you? How about I bring up your marriage scandal, envy, and how you had to go around apologizing? How about Charlamagne, I bring up this rape case that you had where you already went on the radio and said you used to give women Spanish fly and drug them. And you actually, he said, he pointed out even further to say you got in trouble. You lost deals. You were on your way to being fired and treated like scum and trash, but you did something behind the scenes to change that narrative. And he was like, and right after you did that, you can go on Breakfast Club and see Charlamagne throwing this like male booty around, you know, switching the narrative. You know how he talks certain ways to envy that kind of suggests this home, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of LGBTQ-ish, you know what I'm saying? So all of that is kind of what he did after the scandal got real big. And then it died down. It all went away. Like nothing happened to him. He didn't get fired. Bill Cosby. This was in the middle of the Me Too movement. So he pointed out that whatever you think you know about me, I could pull all of that up on you. You feel me?
Yeah.
And that's just how it was playing out. But long story short, though, you know, right after all of this happened, he ended up ethering, you know, Stephen A. Smith, you know, covering him and saying how you would do anything to degrade a black man on TV, etc., for you to get a higher promotion. He said, notice as he started calling all of these guys bums and etc., he gets more and more, you know, attention, etc., from these like, you know, white sports commentators or other sports networks, etc. And long story short, he came out and said all of this, but pointed out the broader message of the media's involvement of slandering, you know, any black person and ultimately tarnishing their reputation and their ability to earn bread in America. So I think that was the main story there. We also actually, even after he responded, you had these people try to switch the narrative and pretend that they were victims. And you had you had like Angela Yee try to come out and say like she's a woman if he was responding to her. You got Jamel Hill who jumped in the conversation to have anything to do with it. Like, if I said anything wrong to you, Kwame, don't talk about my mama or something, like, you know, as a joke. But he responded to her and he ethered her, and through all of that, he got a lot of success. He started his own YouTube channel, and he already had like I think 400,000 subscribers, and they all, you know, all the videos is shooting up. And he talking about this topic.
It's interesting because so what happened was I was wandering around on YouTube, on the YouTubes or somewhere, and I just seen this video of this dude in his car just going off. He was talking, it was the title had to do with the Breakfast Club, and it was Kwame. And I didn't know who he was at the time. I don't follow sports. And I just see this guy in his car just going in, holding the phone up, just talking like, what, you know, talking about Charlamagne and talking about how the man got a case and all this and stuff. I'm like, wow, what is going on? I was like, this is some wild business, man. And so I seen that and I'm just like, this is some craziness. I didn't know if this was real or if it was just some sideshow. Then I go away for a few days and I pop back up and boom, it's real. Looking at this article I got pulled up, after 20 years of insults, Kwame Brown proved revenge is best served flaming hot. The former #1 overall pick in the NBA draft has been ridiculed for years as a bust. This week in hours of YouTube rants, he set up the record. So, all right, let's get back to the TFC message on this. Y'all see what it is. Y'all get it, right? Let's pop back to the TFC. The bottom line from TFC standpoint on this, Ernest, going ahead. So how does this wrap together? We done seen 3 different media outlets with black faces go in on this man. Yeah,
like now how does this all tie together? I think he's exposing, like I was saying, the greater narrative of what's going on here. I'm trying to share my screen. Let's share that real quick.
All right, I can see your screen. Go ahead and pop over to whatever you want to show because it's showing us right now.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and pull it up. I'm watching.
So what we see here is this is the Library of Congress's website. If you go in there and type in nigger or Negro, you'll find over 30,000 records spanning from the 1600s all the way until, 2000 and 2020. And what I wanted to bring this out to say is that the media narrative has always painted the black man or the black woman as this one thing or this, that, or bummy trash. And what it has resulted in is other people seeing us as that and acting accordingly, specifically white immigrants, white politicians with power. Who are they they're just normal human beings. And if they're taking in the message that says this, that, just like the same way we took in this COVID-19 message of wearing your mask, if they're saying these niggas are dangerous or these black people are monsters and animals, and here's the proof, and look at their shapes of their brains and look at how violent they get and look at all of this, then of course people will believe it, and of course they'll treat you accordingly. So this is the message that I think Kwame was trying to hint at with these black media pundits still seeking to destroy the images of our very own people. You even had a few media pundits like Jalen Rose who did the right thing and never actually participated in bashing this man or calling him complete trash, because what it has resulted in, like with all the smoke, these guys, they tried to call him violent or crazy, etc. And one guy offered to fight him. So who was really being violent? And then the other guy, he basically said his life is dirt and that his life is trash. And so if you believe that this black man's life is dirt and his life is trash, then how could you be this same black man who was standing out there because your cousin George Floyd got killed and you're talking about Black Lives Matter? So he was exposing a lot of hypocrisy. You know what I'm saying? So
wow.
So, the message was real deep, but I think, this all ties back to, white supremacy. And ultimately, like, one thing Kwame did point out is that these black pundits, they know there's certain white people they can't go after, or certain white people they can't say these same things about because they're going to get in trouble. And they can't make fun of their family history. You can't go look up no white man, and if his dad and them had some rape history or murder history, you can't be saying that on the news. And
right, you don't even know how many of those white people got that type of history in their backdrop. You know, a lot of them got something going on that'll make a juicy news story. Yeah. But the news story, like I say, what bleeds is what leads. So the news story is not going to be juicy in America in 2021 if it involves a white person when you have an equally bad background on a black person that you can use instead, right? Mm-hmm. If you can go and drag a black person, you get better leads on that, because that's the narrative that they've continued to use the whole time. So
I think that's time back even to like that Baker's Rebellion that we were covering, right? How black and poor white people could go through the same things, but because of that rebellion, how they kind of set up white society was to say, even if you're a poor white, you still ain't black. And that's kind of how black people and white media has been operating. Like, you know what I'm saying? The white media has been like, even if y'all do the same fucked up things that these people do, we just gonna only cover what these people do that we consider bad and just call them the monsters, etc. But y'all, anything y'all did or whatever, we ain't gonna cover it or say anything about it. So you look like an angel.
So with that said, I think how we frame this to the byline of today's show, y'all. Mm-hmm. The byline of today's show has to do with reparations. And what Ernest just eloquently walked through here was the idea that these media outlets all went after a black man who there's no reason to go after him. Now, people may say, who are strong in the sports arena, oh, well, there are metrics, there are objective things that you talk about every player. Well, one of the biases that also lend us back to reparations is that a lot of these players are black. And that's because we don't have a lot of vehicles to take ourselves out of poverty. And this is one that requires no financial investment, no capital investment, no means of production, no connections. All you got to do is work hard, play hard, make sure people see you, spread your videos, and do whatever you can to know that you want to get a scout out there to see you and put you on. That's what's very synonymous about the rap industry, the music industry, entertainment, and this is another form of entertainment, sports in a sense. And that's what it takes, performance. So when all it is depending on is you being able to feed yourself, do the right training, and become good and focused on that, you don't have to have a special education per se, that the books that you got to pay for. You don't have to be at a good school necessarily. You don't have to have a camera or equipment to get on YouTube per se. You don't need to have anything crazy or special or elaborate. You can be in the middle of the hood and blow up, right? We see this all the time when it comes to the idols that we have, the celebrities we have in our community. All that being said, that's why this is so successful of a vehicle for our community and for many people, not everybody and not the majority. But with that being said, that means that is also making us fragile to attack. We're very vulnerable when, like, Kwame goes up and they decide that he's going to be a target. He doesn't have any wind at his back from his, not just the community, but really he doesn't have any financial leverage to protect himself. And the money he's getting is from a contract that's owned by a white media outlet. I'm not trying to get conspiracy theorists. I mean, the NBA being a white controlled company.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be conspiracy theorist. I'm not trying to be racist, tinfoil hat, none of that stuff. What I'm telling you is that not only does he have his hand tied, because if he had said some real stuff when he was a player, he could have lost his contract.
That's the point he made. He said he liked LeBron James, but he said he know that it's certain things he can't talk about because that's how them white folks don't play that. You know, he's from the South, so he was saying, you know, them white folks don't play that.
And so he was tied up to white contracts, and then those black pundits were tied back to white contracts. So that white contract on the pundit, the reporter, the ESPN side, those things lead back up to white supremacy, but they also, from that media side, lead to white-owned media establishments with no pressure, no counter view, no how would I say, no alternative
back on the narrative,
from a black-owned media outlet that can push it with the same loudness, the same spread, the same reach as these white-owned media companies. So you start to see that even when we make 17,222 YouTube channels that each have maybe 20,000 subscribers, even then, we can't seem to overtake ESPN, CNN, and Fox in one fell swoop to counter their narrative. But when they all grab it and run.
And let's put it this way. They might call Kwame Brown a bust and et cetera and say that he's violent and all of this, but they did the same thing to Allen Iverson, and he was brilliant and skilled. And just because he didn't do the interviews like they wanted him to do right after the games, and he didn't go to practices, but still was able to score. All of these things, they made rules in the NBA to say you can't, like you couldn't show your tattoos and all of that at first until he came in the game. You can wear headbands or wristbands during the games until he came in the game. You can wear the baggy shorts because remember he used to have a short kind of basketball attire, and he had the more baggier ones when he came in the game. You know, sort of. So it's all of these things to say that they seek to contain the black image until we push back against them on what they can't control.
Ooh, ain't that it? Ain't that? Yeah. And you know, a good example of this, let's start talking about this media thing, because guys, what we're talking about here is we're talking about black-owned media now. We're talking about the ability. So if you remember back to, man, there was a story, maybe you remember, Ernest, whether it was a movie we watched or some historical account we went through where a black organization turned to the black media to help push some narrative. I can't remember what it was. It was back during the civil rights movement. They went to all the black reporters or the black newspapers or prior to that to do something. But they had that ability that we don't have now. When we talk about our black periodicals, when we talk about our black newspapers, you know, we're talking about a bunch of stuff that people don't even know.
They did that for lynching, though. You know what I'm saying? Like went to the black news articles to get the story out in a different lens, or, you know, those people who were allies of our cause at that time. So, and
I'll take a shot at one particular media outlet that's not sports related or athletic is The Root. The Root is a good example because that's kind of what got me into the movement in this level is when they put out this stupid, ridiculous article. And then you go back and you look into where this came from and you find out this it used to be some black dudes who was doing some things, and then they connected with some other folks who was a little corrupt, and then they got in with a huge corporation that totally it's not white owned. But when we talk about who's assimilated to whiteness and how the value set they need to adopt connects them back to the principles of white supremacy and the oppression of black people. What is that? What's that company called that owns The Root? When you go up the chain now, the food chain, Univision. Yeah. Univision. So go up the food chain, you end up dealing with a Latin American focus. Or Hispanic community focused, Latinx focused broadcast company that doesn't have a stake in making sure our story is accurate. They're not going to lose they're going to gain if they get rid of us.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, right? I mean, we see it time and time again. I found out that same thing about The Root, so I was surprised by that, but yeah.
So, and then we talk about the media, Jet and Ebony. Were they both bought out of bankruptcy together?
Yeah, I think Ebony went bankrupt though. So I don't know. Yeah.
So, and then, you know, the ones that we do have, people don't know about the Griot enough. The Griot is black owned and controlled. They do decent work. I mean, we've seen and heard about their reports on the movement. They were the ones who exposed And again, not talking Democratic, Republican, any of that mess or tinfoil hatness, but they were the ones who done the interview with Kamala, where she straight up said she did not intend to support any reparations. She ain't doing nothing for black people. And nobody heard about that because they're not on the griot.
Mm-hmm.
She done this whole, you know why she would go on there and say that? Because she know you ain't gonna see it. But that's not, but she wants to see. That's so crazy. Like, oh, I went on there. It's just so crazy, you guys. So let me back off. So that's what's going on with media. This is and us not having enough media is a result of just kind of what the whole full page disclaimer. I work for GM. The whole full page ad that Byron Allen and company took out. And what the Detroit Free Press and the Wall Street Journal against General Motors, saying that they weren't spending with black media enough or even proportionate to their sales with black customers. And that shows you that these black media companies, even when they do exist, don't have enough revenue to keep themselves afloat. That's how you end up with Jet and Ebony falling out, because that's where the money comes from. It's not like they ran out of subscribers. No, it's because they didn't have enough money to keep their subscribers. If you think about it, they need money from ads to do stories and covers and renovations of the actual periodical to keep it attractive to consumers so they can keep the consumers. The consumers don't pay enough to maintain the periodical. So these companies are complicit too, in a way. And so this whole cycle is playing on itself, where you don't give money here, so then this thing fails, and then this thing fails. And because you don't have anything to counteract the white equivalent, it comes after us and has no consequences. You guys, when you get into this, I will bring this image back up one more time for you. When you get into this, it comes back to what are reparations, Darvell? Oh, I don't want to do reparations. We can't get reparations. Did I not say business contract guarantees? Did I not say cash compensation? When you have these type of funding mechanisms coming into businesses, black-owned businesses, they can then spend with these black magazines and periodicals and media outlets and media companies. And so the media companies aren't running around looking for white companies to spend with them. You see, and now they can stay afloat and they can reach deeper into the black community and give out freaking free copies of their media and paper and say, hey, you guys need to know about this, right? The HBCU students will be coming there because the HBCUs will be more affordable for black people to go to. When we start talking about this historical education, more white companies will have more properly minded white employees coming through the door, or non-black employees, because they had to do mandatory education on the real historical atrocities of this country. And so they come into the company and they said, I am not repeating what you guys done in the last 20 years. We're going to spend 15-20% with black owned media because I know that you guys, and then also the companies know, because there's federally mandated training and there's been a lot of work done on the federal and state level. We can't play this game anymore. We're going to get knocked down, just like the companies who say anti-Semitic remarks or even hint towards anti-Semitism are getting knocked down. Just like the companies now, if they hint towards any type of anti-Asian anything, they're going to get knocked. And so we need to have that same ability to knock any kind of company, business, individual, organization that comes for us in any type of slighting way to perpetuate the oppression and the exclusion that has led us to this condition that we're in today, y'all. That's why reparations are important, because you can't jumpstart anything that's going to sustain our community without enough infusion to get ahead of the curve that we're well behind. People thinking we can bootstrap our way and just run up behind the bus. You ain't going to catch up, buddy. What you're going to get, what happens a lot of time, Ernest, is people start to feel good because we get more money than we ever had, but we're still way behind. So we feel middle class in a lot of black communities when we're not really middle class. We're lower middle class at best. White people just very, very humble about how they deal with their money because they don't keep it all in liquid. They put it in assets and they just accumulate it. Then all of a sudden they say, how'd you buy a boat? How'd you end up going to that place for 4 months? How'd you pay for it? Well, I just had this money in this account and we just kind of sat on it and we lived on a quarter of our expense. They'll tell you that they got that endowment from grandma to make that house down payment.
Yeah,
and Royal Oak, in Birmingham.
Lake house up north and everything, yeah.
Anyway, let me shut up, y'all. I don't want to rant, but just got to think about this stuff. So that's what happens. All right, Ernest, listen, man. So we understand the connection between Kwame and reparations now, right? I think that's clear. Yep. He got victimized because we couldn't push back with enough force because we don't have black media. And so white controlled media, even when they got black faces, ran over him like a lawnmower on the run. What's going on with Kevin Samuels, though? What's he got to do with
Yeah,
this?
yeah. It's all about the black image, right?
Shoot, what is Kevin Samuels? Y'all done heard the name. Y'all done seen him. He's blowing up. I ran across him last year. You know, it's like, who the hell is this dude? What is he doing? I ain't watching him. I don't know nothing about him, etc., etc. Let me just hit y'all with this, you know, real quick from Exact Net Worth. It just gives a good sample. I don't think it's an authoritative place to go to get information on nobody. We're gonna just frame this up for y'all. Let me frame this up for the people. We're going to talk about old Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels. So what they're calling, I'm on his site here, bykevinsamuels.com. This is a picture of him right here. Kevin Samuels, we are a premier image consultancy designed exclusively for men who want to upgrade on their appearance, from shopping, grooming, suits to short street. From, wait a minute, hold on. What did he write? Is this the right site? From shopping to grooming, suits to shorts, street to the boardroom. He forgot a comma. Yeah. We help great guys look and feel their best. Don't let fear of the unknown stop you from making a great change in your life. So he sells himself as an image consultant. That's on the face. He's an image consultant. If you go back to his historic videos back when he first got on YouTube, you see him talking about different products, different things that he, you know, promotes, whether it be, the video ain't even available about him. That's great. Different things that he promotes about, you know, how you should look in corporate and how you can attract the best version of yourself, put the best version of yourself into the mirror. But what we talk about in reality about what is Kevin Samuels in 2021, so y'all understand who is Kevin Samuels 2021. What does it say here on this site? It gives a real good synopsis. Kevin Samuels is an American lifestyle coach, which is in alignment with what I just said. He's a dating guru as well and an image consultant. He is best known for giving valuable tips on fashion, lifestyle, and relationship issues. Kevin has a self-titled YouTube channel where he makes videos on lifestyle, fashion, and dating struggles. As of 2021, Kevin Samuels' net worth is estimated to be roughly $3 million. So he's down in Atlanta and he's been doing videos for a number of years. What is he? He's over 40 years old. No shade, but I'm just saying, I think he's definitely over 40. Anyway, he went to the University of Oklahoma and got a chemical engineering degree. And it just kind of talks about his net worth and everything. So Kevin Samuels, the big thing about Kevin Samuels is he's blown up on YouTube as of the past year, having a lot of these live videos and discussions with women about their expectations of men in relationships and their dating requirements within the Black community. He's specifically really focused on the Black community. When you first dial into his channel, you basically catch videos of him basically berating or going off on Black women. I'm not here to judge, critique or explain if he's right or wrong about how he executes. People have different opinions on that, but he's had a very growing fan base because his message, when you get through all the clutter of the ups and downs of those calls and those videos, which are very interesting, very clickbaity in a sense, when you start getting, like, if you watch the video, you're going to share it with about 5 people, but he's gained a lot of attention, pulling women down to reality about what they're looking for and what they themselves are actually worth, because there are women running around in different, let's say, dating markets claiming that they're like 9s and 10s and they're like 6s and 4s, things like this. And they're trying to grab men who are high value, which I think is defined as any man who's in the 6-figure range. And they want high value men who are doing all these things with their lives. And Kevin Samuels' narrative has kind of been, you have to be not only a much higher number yourself, but also you have to have something to bring to the table. I don't know. What is your perception before?
That's a good argument. That's a good argument. I think when we start thinking about reparations and the communities we want to build, we got to take our people out of this fantastical mindset of living this lavish American dream that the celebrities push to them, that the celebrities show them that they live in, that they got out of poverty, because there's a lot of other good lives our people could live, and our family structures could be better off if we don't have this focus and opinion on trying to be the next Beyonce and Jay-Z with the wealth and the paintings. So,
So what I want to do,
you can still have wealth, but the idea of it needs to be tempered with what your skill sets are and how far you can actually go off of your own skills or your own situation, right?
Right, exactly. So you got to be careful about, what you're out here asking for So what I want to do is I want to show a quick video from a guy named Crank Lucas. Check him out on YouTube, Crank Lucas. I've been following him for about over a year now. And no. What the hell is that? That's the wrong guy. Crank Lucas makes beats, but he makes parody rap songs that go over the beats to help get clicks and to actually sell the beats themselves. Mm-hmm. So he's a rapper as well as an actual not YouTuber, but yeah, he's a rapper as well as an actual beat maker, a musician. So what I want to do, and just to give people some sense of framing, Kevin Samuels currently on YouTube has about 902,000 subscribers. So he's just under 1 million subscribers. And I don't think he was at half of that a year ago. So what I want to do is I want to play this quick video by Crank Lucas for y'all, so you can get an idea, because Crank does a really good job of explaining kind of what Kevin Samuels' whole shtick is within 2 minutes. And I think it's a really good one to get people primered. And some of the messages that Crank has in this video, we're going to use to have the discussion as to how we connect Kevin Samuels back to reparations. So let's give it a whirl. We do not own this music. We do not own this lyrics. None of that is ours, y'all. So don't be acting like we put you onto this on purpose or something like that. So let's play the music. Oh, hold on. You know what? I apologize, y'all. I got to make sure we share this properly so y'all can hear the stuff. I don't want y'all claiming Darvell and these dudes on this show don't know what they doing. We kind of know what we doing. Kind of. All right. So we're going to do this, y'all. Let's listen to this quick video. It's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
What's up, people? Shout out to the CIA, confident, intelligent, and assertive men. One love to the FBI, my feminine, beautiful, inspirational women. I know a lot of y'all don't like what I be saying, so I decided to do it in bar form. Maybe you like it then. You 39, 200 pounds, and you got 3 kids, and you want a man making 100,000 a year. Those high value men want someone younger and slimmer with no kids, so he enjoy all of his dinner. We don't care about your money or your education, cause that degree isn't gonna raise our procreation. If you call yourself a Christian, then you know to put your husband first, especially when the whole house is living off the husband work. Society has told you can have it all. You wanna act like a man and get all the draws. In reality, that lifestyle is miserable. You really wanna be married, the program is pitiful. And stop the narrative, no good black men. 61% is single with no children. 54% live in the middle class, and you average, but you too good to give an average man a little ass. You wanna wait till you 35 to settle down. By then your prospects ain't around. That strong, independent black woman shit is the worst. 2 parents in the home is how it's supposed to work. Not saying it's impossible, we seen it be done, but that's not the best way to raise your daughter or son. And most divorces are initiated by the woman. Now your family broken up, you single and looking. We just asking for accountability. It helps, cause in the end, all of this is only hurting yourself. Black women, stop disrespecting men without a bag. Black men, put on cologne after you wash your ass. If you can't land a high value man, don't be salty, just hold on. You can't overtalk me. Go on a date with the average man you met and stay well. Or get a dog and die alone. I bid you a farewell. Yes, ladies, it's true. I actually love you. We just need to work together to prepare our community. It ain't y'all fault. It's the white man's fault for programming us the way that we are programmed. It started in the 70s when they removed the black father out of the household to mess up the black family structure. So the problem is not any of our fault, but the onus is on us.
Well,
yeah, hard. Like you said, the problem ain't any of our fault, but the onus is on us. That's the facts, right?
We the ones out here trying to push it, trying to get it fixed.
Bad policies, but yeah.
So that's the essence of him right there. Like so what I really liked about Crank Lucas's video, and can definitely check out his YouTube channel. What I really liked about his video is that he was able to boil down the essence that you really need to know. If you don't want to watch Kevin Samuels' content as a fan, that video basically tells you everything you really need to know about KS, in my opinion, right now. And with that being said, he is trying to pull people back and kind of like, I won't say engineer, but try to reverse the damage that's been done by the oppression, the exclusion, the traumas, and all of these things that have led us to this point. He's trying to come in and deal with the symptoms of the problem that we get on here every year, every other week, and advocate for real solutions for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I feel very passionately that Kevin Samuels is trying to do this, which is cool, and every people are doing it in their own way. But at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to affect enough. He's going to do some stuff. I'm not trying to take away from him, but I need people who really want to see the image that he paints, the fruition of Black men and women having successful marriages at high rates, strong households that take care of children and raise them in secure manners, where we start to chip away at the racial, at the inability or the lack of intergenerational wealth being passed down. When we start to do that stuff, it comes from a true relationship that is true and wholesome between Black men and women. And what's happened is that there's been a divide. And The Root, as an example, as that media outlet I spoke about earlier, has put out articles that explicitly go against that. They've worked as an agent in a big way across all these different media areas with other agents to create a wedge, a fracture, and further the fracturing between Black men and women by casting doubt on Black men and what their wills really are. What really drags
Black man, a white man of the Black community type of shit.
Exactly. It's a new one.
Stop the homophobia, Black man. I'm a person too.
Oh my goodness.
Those messages, yeah.
they are on a, and so they're just one outlet. And there's an outlet with a Black face. Now think about the outlets that have white faces that you don't even be paying that much attention to. You think that they're more truthful, and you don't even be knowing about The Root. You don't even be reading, because The Root, you only read. I think they got videos on YouTube. If there's videos on YouTube, I go over there and report them all. But this is how Black media's lack of Black control can manifest in our community. And so Kevin's come to the rescue, so to speak, to do what he can. And this man started out almost only talking about freaking colognes and man bags and jackets and stuff. Like, I'm not saying that he didn't have a fashion for this area, but like, you shouldn't have to get on here and re-educate our entire community about relationships. We shouldn't be at this space. And this is a result of everything that a proper reparations package, like I spoke about, will create the mechanisms that will slowly but surely, and now you have to be slow, it's as slow as people want it to be, that will start to reverse these damages for good. You can't patch this up with a bunch of YouTube videos, Mm-hmm. Kevin Samuels isn't going to be on CNN talking to every Black person in America, because CNN won't even let him say what he says on his show on CNN. So he's not even going to get that reach of any type of national broadcast network that might let him on there. He's just going to be on there stunting to get more views on his YouTube channel. And YouTube is white controlled. So the moment he starts saying some stuff about white supremacy in a real way, they might say that he's saying hate speech.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I was gonna say that's the exact same thing with Kwame Brown. So like, definitely him speaking up on it is a big thing. And, he was just known for basketball, but now people looking at him as this message to combat this media narrative and this bad portrayal of Black people, because ultimately it leads to adverse effects on them in the.
Oh, you would mute. You muted yourself.
We're looking at this capitalistic society and just the impacts that it has on people who don't have anything left to gain. Like, if you work hard to do one thing and then people shit on that and tell you you're worthless in it, then you only set for one lane, right? Eventual homelessness or something, or poverty. So, I think as long as we got folks like them talking in a space, they're going to reach the crowds that they reach.
Right.
Folks like us, we're going to reach the crowds that we reach with our message on this reparations piece. But I think they are complementary to that, right? Like supplemental.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely adds, because we got a full fight going across the whole board.
I would call them just like, and Gerard will probably agree, we have a terminology within our business we call a subject matter expert, or a SME. Yeah. And this person would be someone who has a niche that they are crafted and well gifted in and talented in. And, a lot of people out there have niches that lend themselves, even if not directly, to the movement for Black lives. And like I've said before, there are two lanes for the movement. There's a lane of reaching out and doing the work to get the socio-political resources that we need to create a true transformation, a restorative transformation of our community. But then there's also people who have to stay back in the camp and keep people from killing each other, to make sure we get fed, to make sure we get the things that we need so that our kids can have the best life possible for right now, while we go out and we get the best life they should have had from the folks who took it from us, right? You got your offensive team and you got your defensive team. You got your away team, you got your home team. You got your field team, you got your base team, right? And so I would say Kevin is squarely within that base team, trying to get all these ridiculous squabbles settled, because there's a lot of ridiculousness. I've been very blessed to not necessarily have to deal with the ridiculousness, but I've seen kind of people who have had some unrealistic expectations. And I would encourage those people, women who have desires for men that they can't seem to find, who are Black. I strongly encourage you to get in the fight, in the movement for Black lives, specifically in the lane of reparations or restorative justice, because that's where we're going to be able to deal with the exclusion of Black men, the miseducation of the Black community, and the overall oppression and delusion that's been fed and pushed into our community that's created the division between men and women in our community. That's the only way you're going to get it fixed. You can't Band-Aid this. And if you ever try to outrun this and you think you've gotten somewhere, you will find that you have ran maybe 20 miles, maybe 50 miles. Maybe you have now broken everybody in the community to a millionaire status. Let's say all these damn bootstrapperism processes that are out here being fed to people, and that people are riding with their heart and soul, especially my millennials, riding with their heart and soul in this bootstrapper, I can do it, I'm gonna be corporate king, I'm gonna do this and that. Let's say that we get the entire community breaking every person $1 million straight. They got $1 million in wealth, some crazy way, because of your ideology that you're pushing right now, or that, not you, but the people who I'm speaking to right now. When we get there, if you don't do this, everybody else is going to.
You went out.
Oh.
Oh, no, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Oh, shit. Right. Listen.
Right,
let me tell you. He said it gets you right when you said. So if you listen, this is what I said. I said, if you get everyone in our community to $1 million in wealth, each family, let's just say every family, $1 million in wealth, the rest of America is going to be averaging like 200, 300 million. That gap, you're not going to deal. And so when everybody else averages 200 times what you have, you still can't afford to be here. And essentially all you do is you shift that racial wealth gap. You take that one and you take ours down here. Look at this. I can't. And you just shift them up on the scale, but there's still the same gap. And that means that you still can't pay for damn school. That means you still don't have enough down payment for the house, because the house now costs $300 million instead of just $1 million. You thought you was good with $1 million. It used to be $250,000. Now, you see, you can't just chase this, because you're not going to get ahead and you're not going to close a gap. I'm done.
No, that's why people can't be fooled by universal basic income at this point, because it's just going to do this. Same with wiping away education loans. You get what I'm saying? Shit, if 50 or 60% of those are going to white kids and other people, you're really just helping them out.
Right. Exactly.
I think Kamala, I think I was listening to one day like presidential speeches, and they were saying something about federally investing in teachers and shit like that, in teachers' 401ks and salaries and shit. And I was just like, when you think about that, if they're already saying 80% of the teachers are white women, then what is the government really saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, any policy that's for the Black community isn't a policy that's going to disproportionately, when we say disproportionately affect the Black community, a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's going to impact most of the Black community, or it's going to impact a great deal of the Black community. No, it needs to be a program that specifically lifts up the Black community exclusively. It might catch a few white people, but not statistically a significant number of white people. It's going to be just Black people. But that's just if you're lucky and you write it raceless. Here's the thing about this. You shouldn't be rooting for programs to reverse racial policies if the programs themselves are not race-based. If you're talking about things that hurt us because we were Black, you got to lift us up because we were Black. Anything else is just going to be, there's going to be some loophole in it. There's going to be some misnomer that's going to get you off. There's going to be something that's going to leave us in the dust, but it's going to feed us enough to shut up. Just like we talk about police reform or defunding the police. It sounds good, but for real, you can go to any one of these cities, these white cities, they got just as much money as the black oppressing cities, and they don't necessarily run after anybody. It's not about the money that causes a police department to beat up and kill black people. It's the people who are in the police department, and it's the community that upholds the police department. It's the city council that pays the police department. It's the police chief. It's all these individuals that you don't want to name and hold accountable. Y'all don't want to get out on the streets about the right thing. Y'all want to get out on the streets and try to take money away and do all these other things that seem simple, like they're going to make a transformative change. Don't nobody want to do the real work, and that's why we're here today. Kevin Samuels is trying. People are trying to do what they can, but the reality is, here's what you need to do. Listen, I'm about to shut up, Ernest, because we got to go to the next topic, but this is what you need to do. What are reparations, Darvell?
Yeah, call them congressmen, them senators.
We're going to tell them. We got another show. We're going to have an action show. Juneteenth 2021 is going to be big. Y'all better, if you're in Detroit, Juneteenth 2021, you need to come to Livernois to the Juneteenth Jubilee. The fam is going to be there, Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan. They're going to be there strong. And we're going to make sure people understand what reparations are and why they're needed, and also what political moves you can make as an individual. All right, shout out to Stedman. Ernest, I'm done talking. I'm putting myself on mute. What's our next topic? We got to wrap this show up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I did want to mention, since we mentioned the police, and there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing to us, right? We know it's tied to the long history of slavery and all of these things that have impacted us. So I did say I wanted to mention Ronald Green, because back in 2019 in Louisiana, I think he took the police on a high-speed chase, and when they pulled him over, he stopped resisting, and he told them that, he was willing to turn himself in. You know what I'm saying? No tricks, etc. But when they were trying to pull him out of the car, of course, he had his hands in the air. He was afraid to exit his vehicle. He told them that he was afraid, etc. They finally released the footage, and if you guys take a chance to watch the 2-minute video, which is on YouTube, it is disturbing.
I can show the video.
Yeah, you said what?
Let's show the video. We don't have to stop. I was just saying, I want to move on to this topic.
All right, let's do that. Let me.
You want to share? Or you want me to shoot me the link?
Yeah, I'm gonna share it right now.
All right, cool. So y'all, we're about to talk about this Ronald Green situation, because we're going to take this again. We're going to talk about how this all connects back to this issue that everyone is not understanding. Let's go.
Mr. Green was, to some degree, even though he had just finished leading police officers on a lengthy and a high-speed chase, his inclination at that particular point was to acquiesce to what the officers wanted.
Let me see your hands. Put your hands behind your back, bitch. Give me your fucking hands. Put your hands behind your back. Taser. Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. You're about to get it again if you don't put your fucking hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. I'm sorry.
What's problematic for me is that Mr. Green is now left on the ground, on his stomach, handcuffed in a prone position. And officers are trained throughout the United States that once there's a struggle of this nature, the individual's handcuffed, that you need to push him off onto his side or get him in a sitting position so you can allow that breathing to be unimpeded by his own body weight.
This guy ain't got fucking AIDS.
And that didn't happen for at least, based on my calculation, 9 minutes, where Mr. Green was left alone. And then when he wasn't left alone and he tried to get over onto his side, another trooper pushed him down using his foot against the lower back and buttocks of Mr. Green. And I didn't understand that. There was absolutely no reason for that. Under no circumstances should Mr. Green have been drugged by his ankle shackles. That was malicious, sadistic, completely unnecessary. And the officer that did it's going to have to be held accountable.
Wow.
I will warn you.
So what was that about, Ernest? You're on mute.
Yeah, like I said, as the use of force expert described, it was a high-speed chase. He stopped resisting, but the officers were being malicious in that arrest. Just like so many cases, these things we can't really be in uproar about if we don't know about it, right? So when they hide the footage and the prosecutor or district attorney say they don't want to press charges or we can't release this footage to the public, it's for a reason. And it is to, keep a certain narrative alive and say the police aren't doing this or they ain't racist. It's just a few bad apples. At this point, it's looking like salmonella. And we got to do a whole total recall. You know what I'm saying? But as soon as you do this, the whole department damn near on leave, but it's impractical, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? You just can't get rid of police at that level. But that's what's needed at this point, some type of intervention, almost like an alternative union for police. So it's like as soon as this cop fuck up, you get your fresh chance to join the force. And these guys are out of there, the leading staff members, all of that. But I don't know. I think that's unrealistic, but it just shows you this is a constant narrative in America. Ronald Green ended up dying. They initially told his family that he died because of car crash accident. I mean, because of the accident, right? They're like, how did he die from any, like the car crash thing when he was pulled over, etc. So with all of that being said, it led to them digging and finding the videos, and you've seen them in there accusing them of having AIDS, which is a racial stereotype against black men, black people. You've seen them in there dragging them by his ankle shackles like they did the slaves. You've seen them standing on him with his knee, with their foot. That was just a 2-minute clip, so we don't see the whole thing. They don't even play the video clips of the officers riding back so we can hear how they think and what they saying. Like, fucking nigga, just should have listened. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get to hear them saying that because they only play what happened versus what we could hear the whole situation. So I would demand that they make the entire video clips public information so that we hear from beginning to end if any sergeants or anybody tried to coach them or tell them anything that would possibly assist these fucking murderers, because we know they buddy, they all in a union and they all stick together. So yeah.
What is the fraternal brotherhood of police?
Mm-hmm. And they killed him, like they said in the comments. They killed him because they could. That's the power they got. They have tear us down in the media because they can. You know what I'm saying? They could do anything if they wanted to. You know what I'm saying? They got the Maury show because they could tear down our family structures further because of policies like the 70s with no men in the house and setting up this narrative of the single black mother, how strong and powerful that is, and how weak the black male and all of these things are. So yeah.
Man. And so again, if we don't have the leverage, because we don't have the media companies, because we don't have the black politicians who are vested in the community, who are vested in protecting and uplifting and enriching descendants of freedmen in this country, if we don't have the people who are dedicated to doing that, we don't have the resources, this stuff can happen. And at best, you get coverage like what we just seen. And like I say, what bleeds is what leads. So they're going to cut, manipulate, and otherwise project this in a way that's for ratings. F any accuracy. Nobody's here about that. Sit in that newsroom and see how they spin it to get the most eyeballs on their YouTube video, to get the most video watches on the live news or on the 6 o'clock or the 10 o'clock. See how they run that. They ain't running it for your benefit. They running it for theirs. That's the only way they get eyeballs. The eyeballs need to be there to see the ads. The ads is what bring in the money on the television stations, just like the ads that aren't coming into black media are the ones that pay for black media to exist. Therefore, because we're not getting any ads, because people are being discriminatory against black media, that's why black media is gone. But the other element to that black media thing, again, is that not only do they need to have people who are willing to put ads and other investments into these media companies, but you need eyeballs on those periodicals, on those videos, on those media assets in order to justify even putting ads in it, right? It's kind of like the cart before the horse. Do you get the ads paid for and put in your magazine or your newspaper before you get readers, or do you get the readers and then you can justify charging people for ads, right? And what happened in a lot of the arguments around not just the comment section, but pundits and other commentators around the issues with the Byron Allen and General Motors situation is that they would say that Byron Allen stations don't have enough eyeballs on them to even justify spinning. So you could take away Byron Allen and make it, if you made all media companies the same color, even if that was a white ran one, even they wouldn't have spent with it. Right. And that's just the result of, do you have quality content? Do you have the money to invest in quality content? Do you actually own something? They talk about the Weather Channel. People like, oh, I want to support the Weather Channel because Byron Allen owns it. He owns the literal channel. Who hell has, listen, let's look at this real. Let me hit you with this real specifically, y'all. Byron Allen owns the Weather Channel. People are divesting from cable television. You probably get your weather off of a damn app. And even if you go to weather.com, which is the Weather Channel branded weather website, that's owned and operated by IBM. Go look at the bottom of the page. Go to weather.com, scroll to the bottom. What it say? It don't say no Byron Allen Entertainment Studios, black owned, nothing. That's IBM.
Yeah.
They ain't selling them that website. They ain't selling them no weather.com.
Power of the corporation, right? Always been a problem for the Negro.
So that's how this happened, man. They spinning that stuff. So we gotta get to the end of the show here. We gotta hit them with what's that time? What time of the day is it, man? What is that, man?
Man's them, huh?
Your man's in them. Is that what we gotta talk about? Yeah. You got a couple mans we gotta talk about. I got a couple mans we gotta talk about. Yeah. All right, y'all. Let's do this.
You are listening to Your Man's Now. This your man's? Hey, yo, who man's is this? Hey, yo, who man's is this? Hey, yo, who man's is this?
Whose man's is this? I need to know. I really need to know.
All right, y'all. As we wrap up this episode of our show, Ernest, tell these people what Your Man's in Them is about, man.
Well, with Your Man's Now, I say we're gonna go ahead and give it to the king of I guess the host of the Donkey of the Day, right? Charlamagne. Oh. So I mean, he's made our segment for the day. And the reason why is because when you listen to his apology that he's giving Kwame Brown for this situation he's stirred up, it's only because he's in fear of the backlash that he may now receive from white media, from his own personal demons coming back up. But at the same time, if we're listening to the message that he gives us here, what you'll see is a repeat, a rewash of what we've always seen in the past. The media companies come forward after they violate, or the police officers come forward after they violate us, and they say they're sorry. It's not going to happen again, or they'll try to do better going forward, or as a community, we can all come together and learn from this moment. And what we see is it happens again and again and again and again and again. And at the end of the day, enough is enough. So, I mean, personally, I don't take this apology for anything the same way Kwame Brown didn't, but we can listen to it and see what he has to say. But yeah, this is why he made Your Man's Them.
Your Man's in Them. And this is funny because I'm gonna start it a little bit from the beginning. We're gonna play a couple snippets of it, y'all, and you'll get the gist of Your Man's in Them. This is number 12 trending. This is trending as number 12. That's pretty damn high on YouTube. Charlamagne apologizes to Kwame Brown on the Breakfast Club Power 105.1 FM YouTube channel. Let's let it play. Oh, you know what? Because your homie here is the smartest guy in the world. You gotta do that properly. Please excuse me, y'all. We know we got the best equipment in the nation over here. Excuse me. I'm gonna mute myself and we're gonna listen to a few clips.
Now, I've been called a lot in my 23 years, but Donkey of the Day is a new one.
Donkey of the Day for Monday, May 24th goes to me, Leonard McKelvey. Contrary to popular belief, this is not the first time I've given myself Donkey of the Day, because Donkey of the Day does not discriminate. I mean, I may be kind of biased towards certain people, but I don't have any bias when it comes to myself. If I'm wrong, if something I do or say doesn't sit right with my spirit, I have to apologize and do better moving forward, and that's what I'm about to do right now. I want to apologize the Kwame Brown and Kwame Brown's family. I want to apologize to his father, Bill Brown, and the family of his father. See, last week on this radio, in my attempt to defend a Charleston, South Carolina-born brother like myself, I revealed too much information about that man's family. And even though all that stuff is public record, some things just don't need to be said on the radio, and they definitely don't need to be said by me. When I look back, on the way I communicated that, I communicated it all wrong. And I unintentionally triggered trauma in a lot of folks I grew up with who I genuinely love. I'm sure I caused a lot of pain for not only Kwame Brown, but for his family, especially his family in my hometown of Moncks Corner, South Carolina. You know how I know? Because I spoke to a few of them. I've been on the phone this weekend with mothers of children and their children. Salute to Shaliba and her daughter, Brianda. I was on the phone with sisters like Wallet. Salute to Wallet. Oh, she cursed me out good. And, I was apologizing for triggering them, causing them pain, because I was casually discussing their family's trauma, man. And that's something that I have to stop doing. That's something that we all have to stop doing. I was talking to my Sacred Purpose coach, Yadi Alba, this weekend. She's like a spiritual therapist. I have her and my clinical therapist, and that's what we were talking about, how we casually discuss each other's traumas. I didn't even think about when I spoke on, Kwame and his family, how many people were impacted by those things I was speaking on. I mean, that's generational. Okay, I caused pain and unintentionally poked at people's wounds. Okay, wounds that will probably never heal. And I can't take back those words, but I can't apologize. I think oftentimes we, meaning Black people, we fight each other with our demons, whether true or false, whatever is the worst thing we know about a person, or think we know about a person, we default to that. And that was not my intention. I was not in any way, shape, or form trying to paint Kwame in a negative light. Okay, that Black man is not my op. He wasn't my op when I said it. In my mind, I'm defending that man, but I should have been defending him as Leonard Charlamagne the God McKelvey, the professional, and not Leonard Larry, whatever you want to call me, from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, talking like I'm home in the town on why I believe they need to leave Kwame Brown alone. That was whack, because the conversation didn't even have to go there. The conversation should have been about basketball. Yes, leave Kwame Brown alone because he achieved a goal and a dream that 1.3% of NCAA seniors will achieve, and 0.03% of high school seniors. You know how small a number that is? And, that's just simply being drafted in the NBA. If you play 13 seasons and make $65 million, you're a success, okay? If you work 13 years anywhere and make that kind of money, you're a success. So salute to that man. The only expectations we have to live up to is our own. That's why I always say success is subjective, okay? My views of success may be different than yours. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. But we didn't even get into that conversation because my mind automatically went to something that it didn't even have to go to. In doing that, I unintentionally caused it. And since
Yep, that's good right there. And there you have it. Like he said, 0.03% of high school students could get to what he got, make $65 million, achieve the dream. So is he trash? Is he a bum? I mean, they could only call a Black man a bum for making $65 million. That's fucking statistically impossible and shit. You know what I'm saying? So,
oh my goodness, that's a good point.
Now you get the sports pundits. It's like, yeah, you can compare stats, but when you do certain things a certain way and try to tarnish a man's name, reputation, this is somebody's son, this is somebody's brother, this is somebody's dad. Like I remember Muhammad Ali was in the hot seat for what he said about Joe Frazier's children. I mean, Joe Frazier being a monkey, and his children had to go to school and live with that reality of the words he said. And him being the world's greatest, people listening to him. So other white kids and Black kids calling these kids monkeys because they did. He is called the monkey by Muhammad Ali. And he's a champion too. Wow. And so that's to show you the power of words when you spread it to millions and masses of ignorant people. You can spread a message, and this is what they did with racism for white people, saying with inferiorness in Black people, right?
Listen, the words, and you know what I think personally? Yeah. I think he has a better chance at taking back the damage because of the reach of his platforms, but he really can't undo damage. How I personally view it, when you put words out there, you can't undo words. You can come back and apologize. You can try to mop up whatever residue you still have control over, but once you impact people's thoughts, you can't apologize those away because you have to unrationalize what you got them to rationalize in their head by the thoughts you shared. It's like me trying to teach you that 2 + 2 is 4 and you buy it. Then I come back the next day and say, well, 2 + 2 is actually 22. I have to also make it make more sense that it's 22 than it being 4 in order to undo the damage I did. And reality is, a lot of times when people make a shot at you, they get what they wanted the first time around. And then when they come back, they're just trying to save face for some other reason, but they already got what they wanted when they spoke the first time. He took like 5 minutes of his show to apologize, but I bet you he spent about 20 minutes talking about this man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, it took a little longer, definitely tearing them down. But yeah.
So you can't undo it, man. And it's interesting, again, the Breakfast Club, like we talked about them earlier.
And the interesting thing is this just show you how connected the Freedmen, you know what I'm saying, our communities are, because at the end of the day, he black and he from, you know what I'm saying, Charleston, South Carolina. He know they family and they know each other. So this is going back to slavery. This is going back to, even if you're a big time fucking star, but if you come from this city, from this town, the good chances of you knowing these families in these towns is a high. And just like that, he's saying I spoke to his family members, even though they never met each other a day in their life. They pulled up. Yeah.
They said we right here.
That just go to show you, like, we are all connected in a stronger way than we think. You know what I'm saying, through these communities. But it's like if we tearing down each other within our communities, then we erode in that trust that we have for our fellow Black American men, and etc. So causing these issues.
Charlamagne needs to have somebody from Detroit pull up on him. He might want to take some shots at some Big Sean or something and see what happens. He do that, and they might slide up a little heavy. What's her Dej Loaf? Oh, I wouldn't want to talk about Dej Loaf, man. I don't know. Y'all might say, oh, she nothing, but I don't know. What's my man? 6 Mile, the money longer, 6 Mile, T Grizzly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, say something if you want to. He'll turn you into a bank heist in 10 seconds. But yeah, man, that's the deal. That's the donkey. That was our donkey of the day. Your man's in them is the equivalent of donkey today for the Freedmen Collective. I did want to show one other thing, y'all. Earlier, I spoke about a report in the city of Detroit. Before we get off of here, we're about to wrap up in 5 minutes here. But earlier, I spoke about a report that was put out regarding the state of affairs in the city of Detroit. It was actually put out by Detroit Future City. It was called The State of Economic Equity in Detroit. I want to show this to y'all. This is just a press release, and I have one passage highlighted from it that's kind of important. I want you to check it out if you haven't yet. Detroit Future City, this is their website, DetroitFutureCity.com. So it shows Detroit Future City's new report sets the baseline for economic equity in Detroit and in the region. And, you know, there's a dispute about how they worded or framed some of this. I don't care how they framed it, because the issue is not how they did it. It's the fact that they had the opportunity to do it, because the real problem that they're speaking to still exists. It's not like they came and said there's ice cream in the freezer and there's no ice cream at all, even in the house. No, there's ice cream in the freezer, yo. So this report that they released on May 17th is a comprehensive data report outlining the deep disparities and systemic inequality that persist in Detroit and in the region. And it's proposing recommendations that will provide a path to prosperity for all residents in Detroit and the region. It goes on to say that the report illustrates that as Detroit continues its revitalization, which all of y'all know Detroit is supposed to be on the uptick, being revitalized, coming alive again in the 7.2 sure. But as it continues its revitalization, the economic opportunity gap for Detroiters and people of color remains, and in certain areas has widened. The data demonstrates this, that policy and resources are still needed. So this goes back to the whole Mayor Duggan plan that we spoke about earlier from that article in the local beat, where we talked about how he's trying to put money back, or supposedly there's money that's supposed to be put back into the city's communities, and we need people to show up to these Zoom calls and start to advocate on where it needs to go. This is literally talking about where that money needs to go. And I'm going to skip past a lot of this. I'm going to read two passages here that I highlighted. I'm going to zoom in on them so y'all can see them too, right here. And I'm going to send this full screen so y'all can read along if you'd like to. But what it really shows is that in 2010, there were 22 neighborhoods in the city of Detroit that met the definition of middle class. That's in 2010. Now, by 2019, there were only 11 neighborhoods, cut in half in about 9 years. That report shows that African-American Detroiters' median income has only increased by 8% in the last 10 years, while white Detroiters' income has increased by 60%. As of 2019, the medium income, should that be median? The medium income for Detroiters was $33,970,000. Additionally, more than half of the city's residents are housing cost burden. That means that over 30% of their income goes towards housing costs. Keep that in mind as you have discussions in the movement spaces and the social economic justice spaces. When we talk about house cost burden, that means over 30% of your income is going towards your housing alone. Now, contributing factors to these disparities can be traced to early education outcomes and education attainment, or the lack thereof. The report shows that Michigan's education system is not adequately preparing all students for the workforce. In Detroit, only 16% of African-American third graders are proficient in English language arts compared to 31% of white third graders. Additionally, only 17% of Detroiters have a bachelor's degree. When you take Detroit as a whole, only 17% of Detroiters have a bachelor's degree. And again, only 16% of Black third graders are proficient in English language arts compared to twice that for white third graders.
And it says 17% of all Detroiters. So that ain't just Black, you know.
They throw it, you know what they throwing in there, dog? Here, let me give you the TFC insight. The TFC insight is this. You hit it right on the head, Ernest. Only 17% of all Detroiters. They just said that all these white people have increased their income. And I'm not telling you that they're getting these people are not getting a bunch of raises at the new installations of LinkedIn, Microsoft, Facebooks. You know, they're not getting a bunch of raises at General Motors. These people are buying homes and renting them out to Black people. And so they've got more properties that they've accumulated. There are more people who are owning and investing in properties, moving into the city, and they're doing all these things like restaurants and other stuff. They're getting in on the growth as the recipients of the revenue. Yeah. And that's how they're creating 60% increase in white Detroiters' income, because Black people are leaving, white people are coming, and white people are getting more money year over year because they're increasing. And then on top of that, they're increasing their income by acquiring more stuff because they had the capital before they even got here. They talk what they said years ago that Detroit was the new Brooklyn or something like that. Yeah, it's a new place to run up in the urban communities across the country, invest heavy, and cash in over a while. And that's how they're going up 60%. Ain't nobody getting a bunch of income. So again, there's an offset of Black people who leave Detroit proper, run to Southfield, East Point, Roseville. They just get out of the city. They go to the suburbs that are affordable, and that's where they chill. And no shade on that. You know, I know people everywhere, Westland and Taylor and Warren, and folks just like, I just didn't get somewhere, you know? And so that's how you end up with these numbers being shot off. But at the end of the day, even though that may not be explicitly stated here in terms of the changing population demographics, creating an increase like this and throwing this number game off a little bit, the game still is the same, that this ice cream is in the house. It's still in the house. This is true. This is not when all these trickle down economic ideologies that are coming from the White House, that are coming from even Duggan. And I hate to throw Big Gretchen here, but she's been kind of busy. So we ain't seen a whole bunch coming from the state government. But this stuff ain't doing nothing but aiding and abetting more gentrification.
They're going to be saying shit like, we need to invest in Detroit teachers once they get to the point where it's 60% white.
You know what? That's how we lost to Amazon. If you remember, Amazon was one of the things I think I remember seeing that Amazon had an issue with is that the education system wasn't up to par. So when they bring on the white people don't want their kids in these DPSCD schools. So anywho, that's what's going on, y'all. Just so the big thing is, check out the Detroit Future City piece. You might have an issue with it. Let us know. Drop a comment on the YouTube video. Drop a comment on my page. Drop it in FAM, the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan. Like I said, we're going to be heavy in these streets on Juneteenth. There's going to be a big video I'm releasing for a Juneteenth project regarding reparations, HR 40. Also, Juneteenth is going to be a big deal on Livernois in the city of Detroit, the Juneteenth Jubilee. Check it out at june19th.co. That's a big deal. That's going to be really getting people to engage with Black businesses along the historic avenue of fashion. So be present there, get out there, see what's going on. And that's my piece, man. That's what I'm closing out with. Ernest, what you got for the people?
Yeah, I mean, I would say as the summer approaches, definitely get involved in this fight. One thing I'll say is, like we just mentioned earlier with Kevin Samuels, with this fight, it's a lot of area, a lot of leg room. Get in where you fit in. I would say all of us could be SMEs or subject matter experts in our own personal area. That could be the mass incarceration system. It could be teaching these youth that it's a different path forward in America as a citizen, helping some of our brothers and sisters who's on the borderline to homelessness or extreme poverty who just need, that additional assistance or positive reinforcement to pursue other things instead of giving up in the face of all this oppression. Because while some of us are strong and actually able to withstand this, some of us are not. And I think that's how you have these situations where you get some Black celebrities who will kill themselves after all of this bad negative media perceptions about them. And you got some who will pull a Kwame Brown, strong enough to fight back and stand strong in the eyes of oppression. But the same should be said for all of us, depending on whatever oppression we may face or whatever obstacles we may have, stand strong against it, because that's surely what our ancestors did. I know we got it seems like we got a long way to go, but I think progress is being made along the way. So with that being said, I just want to say something that J. Rocky always say, we got no permanent friends, we got no permanent enemies, we only got permanent interests. And one of our permanent interests for the future should be building intentional families and communities where we want to thrive and succeed. So with that to happen, we need people to get involved and, get involved in these streets, try to participate, and just be the change that you want to be or see in your community.
And that is it, man. So like Ernest said, we out, man. Peace. Take care, y'all, and see us in the next one, right?
Yep.